Welcome to episode 140 of the Nero Show. In today's episode,
Cervélo have given us an official response as to why their aero testing of the new S5 differs from Tour Magazine's results.
aero bikes for sprinters sitting in and drafting. Is there actually any value?
Of course, we've got Dog Off Fast Bike, and then there's actually a new action camera just been released that could change how you take footage on the bike. We chat through it. All right, let's get into it.
All right, Jesse, the proverbial elephant in the room's behind me, the new Cervelo S5. And obviously, so when this was launched, Cervelo made some claims, their own aerodynamic claims about the bike. And that was subsequently, well, the bike was subsequently tested by Tour Magazine, who we refer to a lot on this show. And their testing results were pretty dramatically different. And do you want to maybe just give a little bit, little bit more of a backstory as to what's going on here and maybe why people should care about this?
Give me a few minutes to do a bit of a rundown, because what used to, and why you should care, because I don't think you have to necessarily care about aero bikes to still be interested in this issue. So what you used to have previously was brands basically saying whatever they wanted. And they'd either just say it's more aero and not give any data, or maybe they'd give some data on how much faster it is, but it would be some random number that they would regurgitate through some calculation they've done, like speed saved over a Grand Fondo, that kind of thing, but with no information on really how they calculated it. Then brands came and started being more objective with how they were explaining, this is really in the last couple of years, how they were explaining how much faster their new bike is. And to the point where now you have brands like Cervelo coming out and listing what competitors' bikes they tested against and a full test protocol, what speed they tested out, how they weighted the yaw angles, and their whole protocol for testing the bikes. Now, that's fine. If you want to buy a Cervelo, I guess, you've got that information. But if you're one of the other, potentially a customer and looking at products from other brands, it was absolute piecemeal, almost an impossibility to compare speed between different brands' numbers, marketing, because it was all just random kinds of essentially nonsense. So Tour Magazine came and gave us a number comparative between brands that allowed you to split between different bikes you might be looking at to see which one was aerodynamically better. So whether that's important to you or not, how much weight you put into that compared to other things around the buying decision, that's up to you. But it was pretty much the only way you could come and just see between two bikes you're looking at which one aerodynamically was better. Then the new S5 was launched, and you had a case where their testing seemed robust, seemed good, and they had one result. And then the Tour Magazine's testing, which we had been trusted and most people trusted, which also seemed robust, came out with a different result. And then you're sort of stuck in this position where either perhaps you could have thought there was some dodging of the numbers going on from the brand side, given that they have incentive to do it, or maybe this aerodynamic testing that we've been looking at for years from Tour Magazine isn't reliable across years or between bikes and that sort of thing. So this is an interesting case that we can now dig into, because we do have an official response from Cervelo that they sent to us around what's happening here. So where did this response come from? Is this directly from Cervelo?
Yeah, this is from the engineers, essentially the guys who designed the bike and subsequently tested the bike. And so the official reply that we received was, "We certainly stand by our testing and published this paper in 2018 explaining our protocols. Frankly, we don't know enough about Tour's protocol to know why the results were so different. That said, the Tour tests took place years apart, and it's highly likely that at a minimum, there was a significant difference in atmospheric effects between the two test runs." So that's the official reply, Jesse. Where does that leave us? Because they refer to this paper.
Yeah, they do. And just as a reminder for anyone that can't remember, Tour Magazine said the new S5 is 2 watts slower. Cervélo said the new S5 is 6 watts faster. That's the numbers we're working with. That's a discrepancy. So this paper they published in 2018 is just a document explaining how they do all their aero, actually a whole bunch of their testing, part of which is their wind tunnel testing. But it's very robust. They explain the yaw angles they test with, the weighting they use, how they calibrate the wind tunnel before they do a run, and it's quite detailed in there. And so that, as far as I'm concerned, I was quite happy with what I'm reading in there. It all seems very above board, all very legitimate. So it seems like the Tour Magazine's testing, Cervelo's testing they do is all accurate. Just essentially just as accurate as anything Tour Magazine does. Here's the difference. So Cervelo test at 50k an hour, unlike Tour Magazine who test at 45 kilometers an hour, and they use a full dummy, so including the torso and the arms and the head, but the legs don't move. The legs don't pedal. They're just static. Whereas Tour Magazine have a pedaling leg dummy, so the legs are moving during the test runs, but it's chopped off at the waist, so there's no upper body. So Tour Magazine do that because they say it's a more reliable test because in terms of removing error, because when you have to try and set up the dummy every time year on year, if you had the full upper body, it gets really difficult to get it in the exact same position. So from a reliability point of view, to remove error, they just use that pedaling dummy cut off at the waist. So the part from Cervelo's quote, which is, the first part seems totally fair. They basically stand by their testing they did, which is fair enough. And they said that Tour Magazine's test took place years apart, and it's highly likely that there's a significant difference in atmospheric effects between the two test runs, which would be true. Like the conditions in the wind tunnel would change, but Tour Magazine say that they also do calibration runs before, and they're claiming between any test runs you look at for any Tour Magazine result, even if they're years apart, a plus or minus 1 watt between any of the tests. So, and I think it's also plus or minus 0.25 of a watt between any test done on the same day. So that's so essentially what we're saying there is Tour Magazine are claiming that the test that they did on the old S5, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, it should be within a watt of the new data that they have on the new bike. So kind of in maybe a little bit of disagreement with what that official response was Cervelo was. But we're at basically a stalemate here, right? There was nothing really juicy in that response from Cervelo. They stand by their testing. Tour Magazine stand by their testing. But we're still ending up, at the end of the day, with different results. Now, there's a problem here in that there is a scenario in which Cervelo's testing is done accurately and Tour Magazine's testing is done accurately, and you still end up with different results. And we're getting really far down an aerodynamic wind tunnel rabbit hole that I'm getting well out of my depth. But because you're not testing with the upper body in the Tour Magazine's test, there is a chance that if you're making changes to the handlebar, the stem, the top of the head tube area, the parts of the bike that are going to interact with the torso and the hands and the wrists of the rider, that if you make changes there, you could well not see as much of a difference in Tour Magazine's testing because it doesn't have any of those body parts. But you would see those improvements in Cervelo's testing because it has the upper body. So that's where you could start to see some differences. And similarly, with the legs not pedaling on the Cervelo, just the airflow is different. And so there could have been some tube shape optimization that Cervelo did, which came out faster when the legs weren't pedaling and was the same, if not slower, when you had the legs pedaling. Something to do with the seat tube and the seat stay area. And that's kind of the problem with the wind tunnel testing in general, or particularly with Tour Magazine, is you only have half the body. So it is reasonable to say that if you're making changes to the bike that interact with the half of the body that's not there, you're not going to be splitting those differences. Now, Tour Magazine say that those differences are minor, and the accuracy you get from not having the upper body, that it's worth it. So that's the payoff there. But it just means, I mean, from what I can see, I could kind of see how you could get different results even though both tests were done accurately. And then you factor in slightly different weighting of the yaw angle. So they both explain how they weight the yaw angles, but they're not doing it the same. So if you weighted them slightly differently, then you would also get a slightly different performance, which is a bit of a frustrating answer, but it's kind of where we're left. And unless there's someone that has a lot more knowledge than I do on this Aero, the wind tunnel testing stuff, and they have another theory. I mean, all the information's kind of out there. The Cervelo's white paper's there. Tour existing testing is sort of out there. The results are all there. If someone has some other conclusion, I'm more than happy to sort of read through the comments on the video and see some people with more expertise than me's take. But that's sort of where I'm landing, is looking more likely like the testing was both done accurately, but we've just ended up with different results. You mentioned this to me when we were chatting about it the other day, is that here's the confusing thing. The test results from Cervélo, if you removed the new S5, and we chatted about this when we first discussed the results, is that the old S5 compared to the Dogma, compared to the Super 6, the SL8 and the Trek Madone, from Cervelo's own testing, was pretty close to Tour Magazine's numbers in terms of the wattage difference. So you were looking at that and you went, that all lines up with Tour Magazines. It's just that the outlier in the results was basically the new S5. And that's what I can't understand in my head. You would have thought that if there were these just inherent differences in the way they're testing because of the different protocols, that you would see differences between bikes. Like maybe this S5, the difference between the S5 and the Super 6 might have been similar between Tour Magazine and Cervélo, but maybe the SL8 tested way differently in one of them because of the interaction between the tube shapes and the dummy, that kind of thing. But it wasn't really like that. Most of them lined up quite well. And that's the thing I don't quite understand. The outlier in Cervelo's test compared to Tour Magazine is that the new one is way faster.
Well, this is Joe Stees, Jesse, picked up on this last week in the comments, and I picked this one out. The comment is, the boys are still rattled by the slow new S5 wind tunnel testing, in my opinion. Dog of a bike, fellas. And, Joe potentially isn't wrong from the perspective, and you're right. I mean, the reason was initially so rattled about it was because all those testing results that we'd seen previously seemed to line up with what we knew was true when it came to aerodynamic testing. And then the outlier was the new bike, which hence the rattled. But okay, so what am I meant to do here? Like the bike is, according to Tour Magazine, slower than the old one. I shat all over the new Trek Madone because it was slower than the old one. Are we Trek Madone territory here, or I don't know.
But this is a different scenario because according to Trek's testing, you could see the new one being slower because it was from memory it was the same speed as the old one with Aero bottles at a slower airspeed in the tunnel. And so you could dig into that. That's what, with the Trek Madone, you could dig into that and you could sort of see, hey, this out on the road or in other testing, we were pretty sure this is going to be slower, and it was. This is a different story where it's got deeper wheels, everything looks faster, and it's a genuinely confusing result. Like, I still sitting here today, even with Cervelo's response and re-looking into the Tour Magazine's testing, and I am still extremely confused. And I don't have an explanation still. So I would love, please, we're happy to send through actually maybe just we can put links to the S5 press release that has the wattage and the white paper and if anyone with a better analysis can give their take in the comments, I'm more than happy to take all that on board, because I'm just sitting here going, I actually don't know. Potentially, can I just summarize it into two things?
Yep.
I'm inclined to say we just need to put way less emphasis on Tour Magazine's testing because it just depends on the bike. how it interacts with the half of the body that's not there. And we basically need to change how we are looking at the tour magazine results. The problem is, at that stage, you can kind of, if you're saying like putting less weight into the tour magazine results, you're borderline able to just eyeball it anyway. So I don't know.
Well, I like this list because you'd started to work on this kind of the coil eyeballing at list, which I can get around. Can we step through this?
All right, yeah. So if you're kind of going, oh well, because of the dummy, blah blah blah, tour magazine results need a grain of salt. If you did an eyeball check of in the following order of priority, from what is the most important thing to look for aerodynamics to least to the lower priority ones. First thing, head tube and fork narrowness, which is a tricky one because you don't often see it in photos of bikes because they're often from the side.
Sub 3.5.
get your calipers out like that.
Yep.
Like the Y1 RS. If you see a video of it and that comes around to the front, it is like insane how little there is. And that's probably the Strom. That's like the first thing is just go around to the front and have a look. How much is there to look at? Then obviously the head tube depth and the fork depth and how smoothly that transitions into the down tube. The down tube depth and how that wraps around the bottle. Or if it doesn't wrap around the bottle, then if it's got Aero bottles on it or not. Seat tube and seat post depth. Is that deep? And then does it have drop seat stays? I mean, at that stage, if you've assessed all those, and we're having to take this sort of like plus or minus 5 watt thing from Tour Magazine's testing, then I think this is going to change how I look at the Tour Magazine numbers. I think I'm done with it based on this.
Yeah, the hardest part about eyeballing the bikes is that front-on narrowness, I think. That's the sort of secret sauce going into 2026. And I kind of threw that Strom into the mix just because I kind of feel like that's where we're going to head. And the riding the riding characteristics of an incredibly narrow bike, I think, is going to be the next big challenge for these guys to work out. But yeah, I mean that's sort of where I'm at the moment. Like, it's above my pay grade, but the conversation's still kind of open.
It is, and I still, just to reiterate, the part that still I'm at odds with Cervelo's results is that essentially the gap between the old S5 and the Super 6 was the same as the gap between the new S5 and the old S5. And you're kind of going, that is, that is a pretty big gap. So I don't know. I don't know. I could, but they don't. Look, we could be totally have gotten just sucked in by their engineers, but they do seem just really, in the nicest way possible, like pretty boring, not looking to just very sort of by the numbers. I really find it hard to believe that they're in there like tweaking with the testing to make the new one faster. I just don't. I find that hard to believe, but like that would be a nice answer. Like they did some dodgy weighting of the yaw angles, and they weighed the yaw angles differently between the old one and the new one, and that made it faster. I mean, that would make sense, but again, there's no evidence they did that, so I'm not seeing. But that would have been a neater answer. I am impressed that they care, Cervelo. That they could easily just have not replied to you. So the fact that they actually brought this problem, quote unquote, up in a meeting and sent you an official reply is kudos.
So a little bit of inside baseball on that. I have done similar with Trek. I asked them for some feedback on the tour testing results, and I did similar with Orbea. Reached out and asked whether they had any feedback on the tour testing results. Obviously, donuts from both those people. I didn't reach out to Specialized or any of those because basically they have good results, so they're probably just going to go, "Yeah, that looks good to me." But and Envy's the other one. Envy's the other one I asked about whether they had any thoughts on the tour testing results. And Cervelo, as you mentioned, are the only ones that have actually come back to me on it.
Because you've been kicking the tires around the service course and you went to the, what's it called, the junket, the tour. Are they aware this stuff exists, or are they just in a bubble? Because we obviously talk about it a lot, and the average, someone that's a competitive road cyclist looking at gear probably knows what tour magazine numbers are. But do the people that design the bikes know?
I had this exact conversation with the engineer who designed this bike, the S5, and he was familiar with it. He was familiar with the score that the previous iteration had. But then when I went into, did you see the Melee got this and the Super 6 got this? No. So it was kind of surface knowledge, was aware that of the testing protocol from the fact that they used the legs, not the upper, the body. So I would say aware of it, but probably not full coil spec would be kind of how I would say. And that, I would guess maybe the marketing people know. I don't know. I couldn't really claim, but I did actually ask about, did you see the Y? Because it was just when the Y1 RS testing had come out. And I said, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm not surprised. Tour tested it fast. It looks fast." So yeah, I mean, they're aware of it. Right, let's throw a quick subscriber question in, Jesse. It's an Aero bike one. I kind of like this. So it's asking for a friend in inverted commas. With all the hype around aero bikes at the moment, I'd love your opinion on a specific rider, type, or situation. To me, it seems like aero bikes make the most sense if you want to go fast, especially in a race situation or for a Strava hunter. But what if you're the type of rider who, in a race, spends most of the time sitting in the wheels, drafting, and rarely sticks the nose in the wind except for the sprint? Sure, you pull turns when required in a bunchy, but there's a chance to hide in the wheels, you'll take it. So here's the question. Is there a meaningful benefit to an aero bike while drafting? Or could a lightweight and more comfortable bike offset those small aero watt savings given you're only in the wind occasionally? So let's answer that first one then, shall we? Is there a meaningful benefit to an aero bike while drafting?
Aero bike's a mentality, right? So this is a problem. This person is kind of looking for an out to not get an aero bike. Don't you reckon?
Yes. Yeah.
So don't get one. But don't get a climbing bike. God, please. Just get an aero, just get a do-it-all. And don't worry about it.
That's my answer. Look, you're as Jesse said, you're looking for an excuse not to get an aero bike because you're already sort of making the excuse that you're sitting in the wind and you don't need it. So therefore, you probably don't like the feeling of it. I completely understand that. You are the person that the do-it-all was invented for. You will love this bike. I know you. I race against you. His name is Kev. He's a lovely bloke, but he used to ride Avenge, crashed it, and he's now on a Melee. And he is exactly you. He rides around wheel sucks, and will mostly win a sprint. And he wants that cornering feeling of a do-it-all. He wants the snappiness of the do-it-all. And he loves it and he's successful on it.
Here's the thing. Would his normalized power for all the part of the race where he's just in the wheels be dropped from 285 to 281 watts if he was on an Aero instead of an MV Malay? Yeah, probably. But
yeah,
that's for that scenario. That's kind of a meaningless. I would say that is a meaningless drop, essentially.
I agree, and it sounds like this person is very much in tune with the feeling of the bike. And I do know sprinters who are like that as well. Like they like that snappy feeling of a bike because it makes them feel like they've got that snap, and that then gives them confidence when it comes into the sprint. And then there's the other kind of element with these sort of races that I tend to avoid, which is that, you know, getting your elbows out and really shooting gaps and being that type of rider. And I've heard it said to me before that a snappier bike is a better bike in that sort of a scenario. So, yeah, you said it, Jesse. An aero bike's a mindset, and I don't think you want to be a part of that mindset. That's all right. Get a Miele.
Don't get a Miele. Get a Super 6. Get a Cervélo.
Get a Cervelo.
Get the new Cervélo. New layout. Did you hear that?
New layup. I did.
They've redone the layout. See Joe's review? What do you think about this? Okay. So they have the Cervélo Aero, and then it's like, we just tweaked the layup a bit. And Joe rides it, and he's like, this feels way better. Noticeably different through the front end, more lively. And he's like, what did you do here? And they're like, oh, we did like a tiny tweak to the layout.
Which is great. You don't have to answer any questions. There's no white papers. There's no aero testing. It's just tweak the layout. Oh Jesus, they tweaked the layout. What? Okay. Yeah, if that's not layups for the boys.
But tweaking the layup is legit, right? Like that's a real thing. Do you think it's all smoke and mirrors?
Ooh, this is a can of worms, Jesse. Do we want to go down the I will say this. I think 2026, year of the layups. You've heard that here first. You'll hear all the bicycle magazines will jump on this. 2026, year of the layup. Because I guarantee you that SL9, the friggin' white paper is going to be 90% layup chat. Because that's specialized secret sauce, and they're going to play it. Do I think there's anything in it? For a brand like Cervélo, I definitely think there is something in it. They have control over this stuff. They're constantly fiddling with things in there. Yeah, I would argue that if you jumped on the Joe layup for the boys spec, you'd probably find it was smoother. Yeah.
Do you think they should re-release it? Because I'm like, that's a material change. You're on a different bike at that stage. Yeah, it's the same mold, but it's a different riding bike. I can't understand why they wouldn't release that as a 2.0. Don't you think they should put a new name on it?
This is what the Chinese brands do. Look at L2. It was like, oh, we've got a new version. What? Isn't this the same? Is this version 2? No. We've just made some changes, but it's still our group set. So I don't think they work that way. They just will, and even with the bike computers, the Chinese bike computers, they do the same thing. They just release another version and call it the same thing. You're like, hang on, is this the same thing or a different thing? And for a Western market, yeah, I think they'd be mad not to. Throw an extra 10% on the bloody recommended retail and say it's the new layup. Just quickly, speaking of new Cervelos, quick shout to Mark Tucker, crashed today, broke his collarbone.
Well, oh no! Oh really?
Oh yeah. Oh. Winters Road Race.
Oh
dear. Out to the big man on his way home currently from Winters. Oh. He could be in the market for a Cervélo layup for the Joe layup for the boys.
Special lap. Is there a Tucker layup?
I'd hope so. Yeah, the Tucker layup would have forks deeper and no head tube. Just be straight fork. You just go straight from stem to fork.
Have you seen what these new crit dog blokes are doing with their head units?
Oh, race footage is back, Jesse. It's back.
We're back. We're back. So I saw this on a NorCal video with Lucas Bourgogne, the US crit champion, elite men's, and he doesn't run a head unit anymore. He duct tapes his Insta360 onto his head unit mount so he can then capture the full crit and then edit it how he wants it. And then same thing I saw as well, Harry Mack on Instagram, who's getting like crazy views. So Otley GP, 600,000 views, 45,000 likes. Guildford Crit, 63,000 views, 4,000 likes. Same thing, just edits with Insta360 taped to the head unit mount, and it gets this. Obviously, you can get the 360 any angle, but it's the full aero option. So you no stats from the race, so you're going blind, but the camera shots are pretty sick, and it's kind of taking over my Instagram Reels feed.
And this is it, Jesse. So this is the X5, and I followed the NorCal procedure, which is basically he's got this little mount from Amazon, and you glue it to the base of the device, and then that just quarter screws onto your front mount. I haven't actually had to tape it yet because I'm not doing crazy ass crits, but when I am doing them, that's probably what I'll do. And yeah, you run no head unit out front, and yeah, I legitimately do think it has, like, bike footage is cool again. Like, watching bike footage is cool again.
But it's not the only camera option from Insta360, who are supporting today's episode. This is a sponsored segment from Insta360 because they also did just release a couple of days ago a new Insta360 Go Ultra, which is a different form factor. So most of us have seen the 360 cameras. How does this new one work from Insta360?
So this is back to the sort of modular style. People have seen me talk about the Go 3S in the past, and that's the little one that I've been clipping onto my chest. I did that for the Peaks video and tilting it up and getting that footage out of it. The one big downside with that particular camera and the little modular nature of it was its battery life. So the new Go Ultra has quite a few updates, actually. So it's going to shoot up to 4K 60 frames a second. The little fob has a micro SD card storage in it. Now, with the little 3, it was all an internal memory. And so with that, you could have issues with it, but you were limited to the size of that internal memory. So you've got a removable SD card. Now, the battery life. I've been testing this, and I've been getting up to 60 minutes with just the little camera disconnected from the main stand. So that's the little 50-gram piece getting at 60 minutes. So we're up there now around the full crit time period with just that tiny. That's I've been using 4K at 24 frames a second, which I prefer because then you start to get the motion blur running the 24 frames a second. So, your 40-minute Tuesday night Heffron, happy days. Not an issue. You're going to be able to run that every day of the week. And it still has the magnetic mounting options. So just like the Go 3S, you're able to slap it onto your chest and run that style of camera and get that POV style, which I think the POV style is really the only viable alternative to the 360 shot that actually engages. It's interesting to look at as far as I'm concerned. Just the handlebar stuff. On a gravel bike, maybe you can get away with it because there's kind of shit going on around there. But the POV styles is the one that you want to go for.
You can tell they've targeted this device to cyclists in a few ways. There's some additional extras you can get that gives you more mounting options. And this is what you ran on my bike when we were filming some B-roll. And it's the Flexi Strap mount, which is just basically a rubber band mounted holder. And then it magnetically clips on with the Insta360 Go Ultra. So you can put that basically anywhere. The standard spots behind the seat post, get the rear shot on the handlebars. But you can also do sort of fork, seat stay, all different shots. And then it's just, because there's no screws or anything, it's just a rubber band mount. You can just put it on, put it in your back pocket, film a shot, maybe film a descent, and then just quickly take it off and carry it around. So that's a pretty cool feature I could see myself using. And then the unique stats dashboard is the other one that they've got in there. So most of us use Strava. So you just sync your Insta360 account with Strava, and then you can just, any clips you've got, it does the automatic overlay of the power data, speed, heart rate, all in the Insta360 app without having to manually do anything. So I think that's a game changer. So mount it anywhere, record what you want, and then the stats are on there, and then you're uploaded straight away.
I had a bit of fun with this with Tyler the other day, actually. So I mounted it on. I did a shot, the S5 hole shot. So I basically mounted it in there and tried to frame it so it was basically just going through the handlebar hole, and then one on the end of my drops handlebars. And so I wrote descended next to him, had it mounted vertically, just had the flexi strap on there, kind of just half wheel hung behind him and filmed him on that descent. And then once we hit the main descent, I put that on the back of his bike and followed him down the hill. It's like 3 entirely different shots, and it is not a hassle to carry this thing. That's really the main point to it and why they're trying to target cyclists with it. Now, if you are interested in grabbing one of these new Ultras, the Go Ultras, there's a link in the description down below. You'll get a free accessory if you do go ahead and use that link. That link is available across all their camera lineup, and that does add a free accessory if you do make a purchase. So a big thank you to Insta360 for supporting today's episode of the Nero Show.
All right, Chris Miller, dog or fast bike time. Let's get warmed up. Heaps to get through in this one. We actually got a competition versus bike at the end of this. So let's go. What's bike 1?
Ripping in with the Envy Fray in a Silver Surfer style paint with mirror blue decals, oil slick tie bolts, all except for brake mounts, new SRAM Force no front derailleur, single Gemini carbon chainring with a 46 wolf tooth guide, purple SRAM Force chain, Envy carbon cages, Sella Italia SLR 3D saddle, Envy Aero stem with handlebar. Here it is. The classified wheel set G42 with a 25 internal. Yes, classified system on a single front. Single chainring debate solved. 40mm P0 tires. Yes, 40mm. Asioma pedals. Dr. Louis, he's asked whether he's got a pack of hounds because he did send in a few bikes. Now,
can I just confirm? This isn't a Malay, is it? It's a Fray, did you say?
It's the Fray, Jesse. It's the Fray. It's the Fray. I think we're both on record
not
saying...
the Mog.
Not the Mog.
These are all blended. You got the Mog, Fray, and the Malay. They're all...
Yeah, I think we're both on record as saying, why the fuck does this bike exist in the first place?
Yes.
Okay. Can I give you a sales pitch? The Fray is good enough to stay at high speed in our group ride here, like the famous shootout in Tucson. Not winning sprints, but finish fresh after 4 hours to go home and play 18 holes of golf.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, because you got road. This is the road Asiomas on there, so this isn't going off road. 40mm slicks. I have a lot of good things to say about this build. I like what's gone on here. I would love to train on this bike. Get me doing some big 25-hour weeks. Plonk me on this. You're good for your long endurance rides. You can still rock up to your bunchy and sit on. No problems. You've got your one by what? But so just to confirm, you have a look at this. That's the road one by group set, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah. So there's no advantage of that. You should just have 2 by. So while I appreciate the froth of it, what is the classified system here giving you that you wouldn't have got with a 1 by on the road version of Force? Wow, the bottom bracket's easier to clean. This is a dog of a bike. I was kind of gushing at the the look of it and the parts list, but now I'm thinking about it. It's a really nice training bike, but it's not fast.
But that's still the problem with this frame. There's no scenario apart from just I want to feel comfortable and train where you choose this. Given, spoiler alert, this guy clearly has other bikes. And so it's always going to be the one in the garage where you go, oh, I suppose I'll ride it. Like
it's literally the slow.
build.
It's literally the slow bike. You're like, I don't want to go fast today, so you pick this one.
I mean, this might as well be my Aero gravel bike with slicks. Like, I just don't get it. And I fully appreciate the effort that's gone into this, but I'm sorry, ride harder and stop playing golf in the afternoon. Dog of the bike.
Tour of Flanders Fondo, I could see it, but you would need to, because you got the classified system with the 1x, which is good, but to make use of that full Mads Pedersen spec, you need the Explore thing with the proper gravel derailleur. So I don't think even that makes sense. So yeah,
you're not holding on to the shootout in Tucson on that. I'm sorry, fake news.
No.
Bike 2 is a Windspace C5 Aero, 56 centimeters, Windspace integrated 3825 bars, wavy Princeton style wheels. I don't know whether that means they are Princeton. We will investigate. GP
it does say Princeton style. They're not Princeton's.
But not actually Princeton.
There's no logo. No. Okay. Light Bicycle make a rim like that. There's heaps of brands make a rim like that. Yeah.
Okay. GP 5000 25 mm. Wow. 25 millimeters. 160 mil rotors. Wheel top EDS TX group set. RYET saddle. Ultegra chain. 105 cassette 1134. Z Race 165 5236 crank set. Well, she's narrow. I reckon she's narrow. That's if I'm looking for positives. Narrow. Now he's got a very cool 30 mil spaces. That's pro spec. This is the new bike. No, this is the
So this is the C5 is their what they call their endurance aero bike, but it doesn't really have the stack and it's not really endurance geometry, even though they say it's endurance bike. But it's a nice. Just if we're looking at the frame, I've actually had a look at this frame a couple of times. You got the really deep fork. You got the drop seat stays going. Looks decently quick. I mean, I'd like to see it around the front, but it's a nice looking frame set actually.
8 kilo build.
Yeah.
So this is his take on a China superbike. 8 kilos.
Okay. Well,
could be lighter with some lighter wheels.
This is not a super bike. I mean, you've got the wheel top group set. You've got 25 mil tires. That crank set actually looks all right. Shifting on those chain rings. Unsure. I mean, okay. What for this to get fast bike? It's obviously not going to be a blanket fast bike. So we're kind of going scenario. You would basically be buying this instead of getting a giant Propel in a 105 build. I'm not there with this group set. Not in 2025. It leaves me quite concerned.
Are we going to talk about the 25 millimeter tires? Is this? I mean, is that just an immediate deal breaker, or do we need to be?
Obviously, clearly, we disagree with. I mean, what's the decision making there? I mean, this C5 should fit some 30s easy. At least give us a 28 at the very least. Is this a fast bike? God. It fits 32 tires. I'm on the Windspace C5 product page, there's not any part of the description of the bike that mentions comfort in any way. Only in relation to the tire clearance, it mentions comfort on varied terrain, but there's no mention of kind of layup to give a bit of compliance. And so I'm worried with that. So you've got a pretty, what I'm going to say is it's unlikely to be comfortable frame with that group set. I think you should have just gone to your local shop and got a Propel. I think you'd be better off. Yeah, there's nothing happening here. What are you getting?
You've watched too many YouTube videos. I think that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You've been influenced by influencers who don't ride their bike, unfortunately, and that's a dog of a bike.
Yeah.
Fortunately, that is a dog. Brings us on to bike 3 from the Sunshine Coast of Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Sent in by an
I've seen
anonymous
this one,
source.
actually. I know who this is. Yep.
Okay. A Team Machine R. Tram Red 1x52 1036, the GOAT 1x setup on board. Creative Ultra 65 rear, 58 front. Tubeless Pirelli P0 Race TLRs, measuring 30. Medium frame, 6.9 kilos without pedals. Now, can I just...
Did you purposefully put in all these 1x builds?
No, we just had an absolute bucket of them sent in this week on the back of last week's chat. So, quick question: these wheels, these Creative Ultras,
Okay.
What's the difference between these and a Fast Sports wheel? Not talking specs wise.
I don't know. Probably not much.
This is what I find funny about these wheels. There's a group of them now that they've kind of like petitioned themselves off to the side as like the boutique. They're like a boutique wheel brand, but not like Scope boutique or mainstream boutique like Envy or something. But they've sort of stopped themselves. They're slightly different to Fast Sports and Magine and CRW. But are they?
Well, I don't know if they do any hub customization or rim customization, or if this is all off the shelf parts that they're just building, and they're just a wheel builder. I don't know.
Yep.
Either way, I don't think it matters. I mean, if because it's an Australian company, if you're in Australia and you don't want to import from another country, from China or something, and you can get basically a Fast Sports style wheel that's already in the country and the price is reasonable, fair enough. It's just if they charging like twice the cost as a Fast Sports and you're looking at it going, I don't really see any customizations here, then you could probably turn your nose up at it. But I think it's...
I'm not turning my nose up at it. I'm just more interested in this. This seems to be... This is another chat potentially somewhere down the line, but it just seems to be this kind of weird niche of the wheel product that's like, it's not a Chinese wheel, but it's not a mainstream
wheel. But it is
wheel.
a Chinese wheel. It's a Chinese wheel.
But it is, yes.
It's built in Australia, and if you have a problem, you don't have to...
No?
No, because he customizes all the hubs and the well, not the spokes, but the hubs and the rims at least.
Yeah.
So that's different. That's like a wheel that's his own product. But these other ones that are seemingly off the shelf parts, but it's not a problem because they're not charging. Because what Fast Sports do is the Fast Sports wheels have a big margin on them.
Yes.
The Fast Sports branded because they sell OEM to people probably like Creative, so that that's the thing, you can get the Creatives for a similar price that you'd get the Fast Sports anyway. It's just that they're built in Australia. If you have an issue, you don't have to ship them back to China. So and you're supporting an Australian business. So and you're paying similar price. So I get it. I get why people would choose these. They don't want to shipping from Melbourne. Sure.
But ultimately, is this a dog or a fast bike, Jesse? My concern, which has been a concern a little bit now for this BMC Team Machine R, is number one, the stack height, and number two, the tyre clearance.
Yes.
Now, this particular cyclist, I know for a fact, is not a particularly flexible individual. And yet he's only got, I'm going to say 10 mil of space is there, maybe, max. So whether he's changed his position to be a little bit more aggressive, maybe. Let's allow that. So he's running 28. Probably not a massive amount of room to. I doubt you're getting a 32 on there. Would that be a safe call?
Yeah, you put a 30 on a wide rim, you'd be you'd be risking rubbing, I think. It's claimed 28 from BMC. Look, I think this is, in the right conditions, this is a fast bike. But it's not a perfect bike. What is this? Well, you tell me. What is this setup with one by? Why? Why should this be one by? With a road derailleur. It's just fashion. Because that could easily have a front derailleur on it and you have the same big chainring. Run the same cassette if you want. And for going a watt slower, you've got a whole option of an inner chainring. I'm dying on this hill, Chris. I'm up here, and I'm not coming down. So, is that enough to call this a dog of a bike? I don't think so. But thin ice. You're on thin ice, BMC Team Machine R. But I think I'm going to have to call that fast. Yeah.
It's a fast bike. Yep. Bike 4. We got a lot of SL8s this week, just quietly. So I picked out one of them. It's a 56, built by myself. Parts are a carryover from my 3T Strata Rovel Rapid bars, 38 millimeter, 115 millimeter length stem, Parkour Chrono wheel set, 69 front, 75 rear, 1660 grams. A bit heavy, so I've ordered some light bicycle 65s. 30 mil GP 5000s. He's running them TPU tubes. He's got Galfer rotors, ladies and gentlemen. Galfers. He's got some Wahoo titanium pedals, SLR boost carbon rail saddle, Ultegra levers, and front mech Dura Ace mech and calipers. Sky pivot cranks from Panda Podium. Carbon tie 52 tooth big ring. No actual weight saving. For this, just bling, briefly fitted a 34 inner ring for Von 2 trip and running an 1128 cassette. Did the Von 2 Gran Fondo on this particular rig. Now, the reason I threw this in this week is this is a lot of custom spec on a bike.
Mm-hmm.
And I really quite like it, personally.
I agree. That's a fast bike. Ultegra spec. You got deep wheels. I like that paint color of the SL8. Some little crankset, little upgrades here and there, which don't really detract in any way, but add a bit of personality. This is good, fast road bike for someone that's 75 kilos or heavier. I reckon you're happy.
What do we know about these Sky pivot cranks?
That's all the same, isn't it?
It's all the same.
Sky Sky Pivot, Eli Lee.
Okay.
They're all just lighter weight. And then usually it's happened because people want to run shorter cranks and then they go, well, I may as well just buy the carbon ones and save a bit of weight.
Confirmed. Fast bike. All right. So bike 6 and 7, this is a versus challenge.
Oh, okay.
It was sent in by someone who claims to have a huge wang. So we will see. Bike 1 is a Armac SL8 Pro frame 56, Duramo seat post, 0 offset, Bjorn 3D printed saddle, polymer handlebar 110/38, Craft 2.0 50/60 wheels, 1250 grams, Panaracer Agilist Collab polymer tires, 700 by 30mm TPU tubes, Ultegra 1 by with Cybre 165 cranks, XKD power meter for that beautiful extra few watts that gives you, and 1125. I feel like this person might live somewhere flat. Carbon tie eroders, Tade special, no Galfers here. Nova Ride OSPWs. He's given his discount code. 6.4 kilos, pedal cages and mounts versus the Quick Pro ER1 size large, 0 offset post, Bjorn 3D printed saddle, Kenwin handlebar 3820, Craft 65 75 wheels, 1400 grams, Continental archetype tires, Tramforce Explore 1x13 with 50-tooth chainring, a K-Edge chain guide because he's fast, 6.5 kilos, power meter pedals. He has massive biceps. Jesse, the SL8 versus the Quick Pro. Which is the dog?
So easy.
Which is the fast bike?
This is so easy.
It is.
That Quick Pro is vastly superior to that SL8 build. Firstly, it's not even the S Works. It's just the Pro model. What is that? It's like a weight weenied climbing bike with this awkward handlebar setup, but then with 1 but the road version with a tiny cassette. That nothing in that build makes sense.
That SL8 build. You know what that SL8 build is? Do you know what it is? It's that one guy who used to ride a bit, used to be pretty strong, but he's basically given up now, and he's just going through the motions. So he's just throwing random shit at a frame and seeing what sticks and hopes that it gives him some sort of performance edge. That is an absolute... Oh, that's up there with worst of the year, that thing. But in comparison, Jesse, we have... I mean, those wheels look fast standing still. Just look at that thing. Look at that rear wheel.
That'd be so much more fun to ride. Imagine humming along Beach Road on that.
Yeah. Now, the bloke who owns that second bike actually has a chance with life. The first guy's given up. First guy's playing Call of Duty at 2 a.m. Second guy, he's in bed because he's got a bunch ride the next morning.
Yep.
That Quick Pro, fast bike, SL8, dog.
And I can at least the 1 is done right. And I'd probably go because the only thing is the cassette's a bit big for what's going to be, you would assume, ridden on the flat with this setup. So I'd probably go smaller cassette, but at least it's the Explore version. I can kind of half get my head around that. So very nice.
All right, comments from last week's show, Jesse. I want to jump into this one because I think at this stage it's the most liked comment on last week's show, so I thought we should address it and talk about it anyway. No offense, big fan of the show, but this subjective chat from Edwin is completely slop. I don't see how any of this is useful. This tightness chat is completely subjective and has nothing to do with the actual word. Saying the S5 is marginally better than the Quick Pro for 5K more and then shilling it because some people want the best is such a bike salesman thing to do. I don't think he would admit the Quick Pro is better even if he felt it true because he can't sell it in the shop. This guy either gets bikes for next to nothing or has a ton of money if you think that 1 or 2 watts of 55k an hour worth 5k to an average consumer. I'm sure the S5 is great, but the fact that the Quick Pro is even close to the S5 is a miracle.
Yeah, okay, a few things. Let me just run through. It's such a bike salesman thing to do. Oh, so Edwin works for Case. They don't stock Cervelo, by the way. So that wasn't... and they don't stock Quick Pro. So, yeah, he's not selling the S5 in itself. And I would agree. I mean, I'm sure the S5 is great, but the fact that the Quick Pro is even close to the S5 is a miracle, 100%. Like that was my takeaway from it, was that the fact that it's even they're we're kind of splitting hairs to find which one is better is good for us as consumers who want fast bikes. The only thing though is his chat being kind of super subjective and the whole tightness thing. I don't think he's making it up, and I kind of have to take Edwin's word for it that he is accurately describing what he's feeling. But the reason why I think it's an interesting chat is he's actually a good rider, and I could understand people thinking it's bro science or that it's all this sort of subjective chat, but it is genuinely what he's feeling on the bike, and from someone who's ridden a lot and ridden a lot of bikes fast, I think that's still a valuable opinion, right? I mean, because the alternative is only hearing opinions from people who are technically forming more objective opinions, but they have a 200 watt FTP and ride 3 times a week. So isn't there value in the subjective but hopefully honest opinion of an actual really good rider?
Yeah, I just wanted to pick up on the subjective stuff because you're dead right. It is subjective, completely subjective chat. Once you've weighed the bike and once we've spent 20 minutes talking about 4 or 5 watts in a tour testing, there isn't a lot else to do apart from how does it ride. And then we want to give you, the audience, someone's opinion who we think adds value to the conversation. We think actually moves the conversation forward when it comes to how a bike feels when he rides it. And he's really opinionated about it. That's the other thing, because with subjective chat, it's hard to get real opinions from people. And I think a lot of that just comes from how hard he rides a bike.
But we want the subjective chat. Like, as soon as he rides a bike, we have in the iMessage, we're like, what did you think? And I want what he thinks about it. And then we get on to, and then we're sharing what he thinks about it in the video. I think I don't like that kind of, you didn't agree with his opinion or his take, and so it's like, this episode's worthless. But again, don't you want to hear how a strong rider who's, whether you agree with it or not, has formed an opinion? Isn't that interesting? I find it interesting. Yeah, that's why
the tightness chat is completely subjective. Yes. Yes, you're dead right. It is completely subjective. One of the comments was there should be a tightness scale on the Cache website. I did like that.
I don't know if this is the right time to have this rant. Maybe people don't like rants, but as just almost a separate topic, the level of rider for the average cycling YouTuber is embarrassingly low. So you got to remember, like, if you're watching cycling YouTube and you're taking in 10 opinions or 10 views on something, the vast majority of it is coming from people who just aren't very good at riding their bike. And it depends on what the opinion is on, I guess, and whether it's a sort of a technical opinion or a subjective opinion. But if it is in more of the subjective realm, just keep that in mind. Like, I think in the space we need more opinions from good riders, because a lot of the good riders aren't either giving their opinions or can't form them very well. And so, yeah, it is a little almost a running joke that, Chris goes to the Cervelo junket with the media people, and they're all dropped within 5 minutes because they barely ride their bike.
Got some B-roll of that. I'll see if I can dig it out. But yeah,
and it's not an elitist thing. It's like, if you're going to a car review, you expect the person reviewing the car is a good driver. If you're reviewing a Ferrari, there's no point me reviewing a Ferrari. Oh, corners well. Like, what? I don't. So that's more of. I just wanted to say that because it does come up quite often.
I know people get shitty about that when you say stuff like that. Like, oh, the opinion of a strong guy is more valuable. Well, in certain scenarios, I'm sorry, it just is. Like if you ride your bike more and you're putting it under more load, there are different sensations, different tightnesses that you can feel. So I don't know. Yeah, it is a joke. It is actually embarrassing if you go to these things and it's like a Cat 4 slop fest, and you're wondering like what's going on. And yet you'll read an article or see something from them, and it's like, wow, how did they? Maybe they're just way better at this. How did they gather that from their 170 watt threshold effort? What about this one, Jesse?
Okay.
I think you need to be more specific with your terms. Speed and acceleration are two separate issues. I'd guess that stiffness within reason doesn't affect speed once up to speed. Acceleration is stiffness and weight. Also, with regard to the Tool magazine numbers not showing stiffness, it may be that they aren't measuring the correct parameter that makes a bike feel stiff. 100%.
That's why I sometimes pick you when we do reviews. I'm like, are you talking about, if you're talking about speed, you're just talking about aerodynamic drag. If you're talking about stiff acceleration, you're talking about geometry. Don't forget geometry in acceleration. That was the X factor that came up in the Edwin chat, not just the stiffness of the frame. But yeah, stiffness, weight, the geometry. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Yeah.
I do make that mistake. I'm happy to be called up on that when I make that mistake, because it is a trap I fall into often, actually. So yeah, I definitely.
You had a good one in your standalone S5 review. This was a good little gymnastics one. It was, where does the bike hold its speed? And so because it accelerates well, it holds its speed well at slow speed. I noticed that was a nice little. I was kind of like, I think that. Maybe there was a couple of confusion of terms there, but that's another one. Yes.
Yep. No, that's a fair call. Happy to be called out on that one. Definitely. Anyway, enough of this subjective chat. Subjective slop. Love it. All right, keep the comments coming. We will certainly get around to trying to answer the ones that are either the most controversial or most interesting. All right, I reckon that is us done this week, Jesse Coyle.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for listening, everybody.
All right. We will see everyone next week.
Bye.